There's some more crayons back here I want to put in. Blue, a couple of them are blue. I want to put some of those there going, just to make this space interesting. You don't always have to add something in order to make a particular part of the painting interesting, but I don't like any part of the painting to not have a point of interest or an element, whether brushwork or an object or something to liven it up, something to balance the rest of the piece. So blue, cobalt blue, and white, and I'm mixing it with some of my greens. And thin it with medium. And for shadows, I have a purple that I've mixed of cobalt blue and permanent rose, and I mix it with white. And I'm going to mix up some more green. A pile of the same that I mixed up from the beginning. Viridian with cad yellow bead. Just to have a pile of it there, because what I do is I will take that, both piles, the green and the purple, and make a gray. Mixing them together makes this really great gray that I'm going to use as shadows, some of the shadows here underneath the crayons. And I can take that and put it under almost any of the crayons to start, and then adjust the temperature of them or the value of them if they get darker. It kind of depends on the color of the crayon, because there's a lot of reflected light, and there's more yellow in the shadow of the yellow crayons because that color is reflecting into the shadow. So I'll adjust it, but this is a good base color for all of these shadows here. And it helps to unify the painting a little bit. Even here, well there, that probably will leave it a little warmer, but anywhere on the white cloth. We also have another block here, this purple triangle. So I'll put the shadow in now, just underneath it. Crayons. I'm just pulling out various colors that I see in the setup. I'm not concerned about making sure it looks like a crayon, what I think a crayon should look like. All I'm doing is looking for shapes of color and trying to match those colors and get those shapes correctly, get them down correctly. And I know as long as I do that, once they all come together like a puzzle, the image is there and it becomes it's easily recognized as a crayon or a block or a face or whatever it is. I like what Richard, my friend Richard Schmidt told me. He said that they're all just shapes of color, and he never sets out to paint an eye. We're not painting an eye or a mouth or a petal of a flower. All we're doing is painting shapes of color. we're trying to identify what shape it is, what color it is, and as long as we get those correct, as long as we get them down accurately, once it's all together, it's exactly what's in front of you, whatever the subject is. Alright, so to warm up these shadows, what I do is I'll take the green mixture, again, that I had, and put a little orange in it, cadmium orange. It's much warmer. Sometimes just a little bit of yellow ochre works, but we're going to use green and orange. See how warm that gets? Hopefully it shows up on camera, but it really warms up those shadows just a little bit. I'm not covering all of the gray, obviously, otherwise I would have just put this color down. But I put a little bit of it into the gray, just up underneath the crayon. Doesn't change the value too much, it darkens it a little bit, but it really brings that shadow to life, because now the temperature makes sense. But I like to start out with that gray because I leave some of it showing through or on the outer rim of that shadow, because then it looks as though it's blending into the light. It's not a hard edge, it actually softens the edge without having to blend it with the brush necessarily. So the same with the crayon, to make it look as though it's round, you don't want it just flat, solid, one color. It has to have some shadow or a highlight. And I like to start with a shadow because I've noticed that sometimes the highlights are unnecessary. I'd rather put more emphasis on a nice dark or good shadow than rely on all these highlights everywhere. I think with each additional highlight, I've noticed it tends to weaken the painting. So I'd rather have one or two strong highlights and then rely more so on the darks and the shadows and those cast shadows, or what they call the core shadows of the actual object. Now that seems a little bit dark. I want to be careful not to go too dark here. So we'll lighten this a little bit. See how that took on depth? It looks as though it's a rounded object because we've got the shadow underneath it.